Broadcasting live from 7 to 8 a.m. And now, here's your host, Alex Feuz.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday morning. It is registration day here on the campus at Dean College, and also is election day for everyone in Massachusetts as well as in the United States. Sending it over to Chaz Soba in the news studio this morning. Chaz, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's actually sunny again in the morning here, and it's when I woke up yesterday, it was very strange seeing the sun at this hour. I'm not used to seeing the sun. Usually I'll see the sun when we leave the studio around 8 o'clock after the show. But before the show, I never see it.
No, and especially before the daylight savings change. I'd wake up at 6 in the morning. It'd be completely dark in my room. I'd have to fumble through my clothes and whatnot to get ready in the morning. Now with the changes, I can actually get ready in the morning. It's like getting ready a little bit earlier.
And it wakes you up a little bit. You're not as tired in the morning, but what kills me is when it's dark outside at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I wake up and it's dark and I just want to go back to bed.
You know, I went outside last night. I was leaving the campus center here on the campus around 5 o'clock, and it was dark outside. And I was tired. I just wanted to go to bed at 5 o'clock. Well, I got a good amount of sleep, but still, it's just like 5 o'clock is not time for it to be dark outside. I don't get this whole daylight savings time. I don't get it.
Neither do I. I think it's something...
Like, would the world end if we changed it or got rid of it?
I don't think it would.
Well, then I don't understand why we have to.
Neither do I.
Anyways, what's the weather looking outside for today, Chaz?
Well, it is currently 44 degrees here in Franklin and mostly cloudy, and it looks like we'll be getting rain today starting around 11 a.m. and throughout the afternoon until around 5. Today's high will hit 57 degrees and the low will be 46. Now, back to Alex with a briefing of Massachusetts Election Day. Alex, if I'm a voter, what do I need to know?
So you first have to be registered to vote, and you don't have to re-register. You only need to re-register to vote if you've moved, changed your name, and if you haven't voted in 4 years, or if you want to change political parties. Where is your polling location? If you are unsure where your polling location is, you can enter your address on the Secretary of State's website and find out where you should go to vote. Who is holding elections and what are the polling hours? Typically, voting started mostly everywhere either at 7 or will be starting at 8 a.m. In New Bedford, Mass, it starts at 7 a.m., so it just started. In Attleboro, Mass, that started at 7, and it ends everywhere at 8 p.m. tonight. And so you have the entire day to go out there and vote. Be sure if you have a lunch break, you can go out and vote, or if you have a break during the day or after work or now, if you're driving, just take a quick stop at your polling locations. And if you aren't sure where to vote, again, you can go on to the website, the Secretary of State's website, type in your address, and it will put out the best polling location for you. And again, many cities and towns across the state will be holding the elections for city council, school committees, and mayor. There are no statewide elections this year, although many cities are facing the mayor races. And then also you can scroll down a complete list of all the cities and towns holding elections online. We got this article from Mass Live, so if you just want to go to Mass Live, and then you can take a look at all the other polling locations for you. I read the ones around here. Franklin isn't on here. Otherwise, we would update you guys. I believe it's going to start at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. because that's what everyone else is doing. But again, if you have any other questions, be sure to just find out the information. I'm sure Wicked Local Franklin, the local community newspaper website, is going to be posting about it as well. So again, it's election day. I'm filling out my absentee ballot because, again, I am from New York. So I'll be voting today, and it's what everyone should do. I mean, you have the right to do so, and you should just vote.
Yeah, and to add to that, on the website, if you are wondering as to whether or not you need to show identification once you're there, in most cases, no, you do not need to show an identification to vote in Massachusetts. Once you get there, you'll be asked your address and then your name, and poll workers will check that information against their list of registered voters. The only scenario in which you will be asked to show identification is if you are either an inactive voter, you are casting a provisional or a challenge ballot, or the poll worker has reasonable suspicion that leads them to request identification. Other than that, you just need to bring yourself, you need to give your name, your address, and you're free to go.
And again, so it's election day, and also we have a lot to talk about today. JD Martinez back in the news. The Boston Red Sox kind of making some waves. They have a new chief baseball operations officer in the front office now, Ham Bloom, and then also now JD Martinez says he won't opt out of his contract, so basically opting into the Red Sox. Big news also, the MVPs of the year finalists were announced, as well as Cy Young and Manager of the Year. We're going to be debating those later on in the show, and also top 5 news headlines coming up in about 5 minutes. So again, a lot of stuff to talk about today. We got some interesting news stories today for the top 5 news headlines. We got something about a cat from a football game. And if you watched the Giants versus Cowboys game last night, you might know what we're talking about. But JD Martinez won't opt out of contract, according to Ian Brown and Ken Rosenthal, good friend of the show. So rather than opting out of his contract by Monday's deadline, JD Martinez has positioned himself back in the middle of the Red Sox batting order for next season. And it's just like that. Martinez is going to be sticking with the Boston Red Sox for a few more years.
Red Sox fan everywhere, really happy to see that. You know, he's been a very pivotal piece of our offense, and although last year didn't go as well for him or really anyone on the team as our championship season 2018 did, that's still a really big bat that you want in the lineup. It's a consistent hitting. He hits for average as well as power, and he still has 3 years left now that he's opted to stay in his contract. Still has 3 years left and has an opt-out option in the 20 and 21 season. Still has $62.5 million left over 3 years, which is a large sum of money, and he's going to want to stay with this team that still has a legitimate shot at a championship every year.
And also, you have to consider, I mean, look at the last 2 seasons that he's been in Boston. He's batted .317, on-base percentage .392, slugging .593, 79 home runs, 235 RBIs in just 296 games. That's unbelievable. And that's statistics where, sure, it might be in the juice ball era, but still, it's numbers that no one can go up there and do if you don't have the talent to do so. You know, it's the same argument, and again, this is the whole argument for another time, but, you know, Alex Rodriguez and the steroids. He didn't need the steroids. It's simple. He was one of the most talented baseball players in this era, and that's the most, you know, again, we're getting off topic here, but again, JD Martinez opting back in for the Red Sox, and why would you want to leave the Park of Fenway? I mean, it's just an unbelievable ballpark to play in, and it's a good hitter's ballpark as well. Besides the big green monster, other than that, it's a very hitters-friendly ballpark.
It definitely is that, and the reason that I like this re-signing, but JD Martinez choosing not to opt out of his contract, is after the loss of David Ortiz to retirement a couple years ago, JD Martinez has really brought a big bat back to Boston, which is something that David Ortiz left a big hole in when he left. He was always our big home run guy, clutch power kind of guy. And we didn't have a guy like that for a while before JD Martinez came, and he kind of filled that hole. So for him to stick around for 3 more years at least is pretty big for the city of Boston.
You know, and you make a great point there, because that 1 year in between when David Ortiz retired and JD Martinez came to Boston, they did not have that home run power in that lineup. And that's what they were missing, because a 3-run home run changes the ball game. And the Red Sox did not have that. And it almost seems like the Red Sox are taking a page out of the San Francisco Giants book. It seems like every other year the Red Sox are great, and then the next they're okay or bad. And that's what the San Francisco Giants had for a good amount of years in a good stretch for about 5 years, where they would win a World Series and not, and then win a World Series and then not, and then another World Series to ultimately get 3 championships in under 5 years. So again, now the Red Sox kind of in the same boat. they've won 2 World Series this decade. Phenomenal accomplishment for them, especially in this day and age in baseball where it is so hard to repeat. It is so hard. I mean, we just saw it with the Astros, and then we just saw it with the Red Sox, literally. I mean, how can you win a World Series and then struggle to stay 500 the next season? It's just it's so tough because you have that target on your back, and it's so tough to just get through and just have everything work to what it did in the year prior.
Of course, a World Series run, a championship is a special kind of run for guys. You know, even with a whole bunch of talent, like say the Astros have or the Red Sox have had in recent years, it's hard to repeat a year just because a World Series run is a special sort of thing that everything clicks for you. All your pitchers are on. They're at their best game. Your hitters are having, at least 1 or 2 of them are having MVP seasons, kind of putting up big numbers and carrying the offense. So for everyone on the team, like I said, even with that kind of talent, it's hard to repeat like that every year and consistently be good. So for the Astros to be doing that right now has been pretty amazing. And for the Red Sox to, although they've been inconsistent for the most part, they've been one of the better teams of this decade. It's a impressive feat.
So the Red Sox answered a big question. I know going into the offseason, it was like, okay, what's JD Martinez going to do this offseason? Is he going to opt into the Red Sox, or is he going to test a free agent market that's really competitive this offseason? There are so many free agents out there, top-of-the-line guys that probably, if done correctly, this might be one of the most entertaining off seasons in baseball we've seen in recent memory. So the Red Sox have answered one of their questions. What's the future of JD Martinez in Boston? What's next? Is it Mookie Betts?
That is the question at hand now that JD Martinez has decided not to opt out of his contract. Red Sox president Sam Kennedy actually acknowledged on the last day of the regular season last year that it would be difficult to have a roster in 2020 that would include both JD Martinez and Mookie Betts, simply because they're both very big names. They're both going to want a large sum of money, but they haven't ruled out the possibility. There's a chance that the Red Sox could trade Martinez even after he decided not to opt out, but without a long-term commitment from Betts, it would be risky. You don't want to really get rid of both your big guys like that. So at this point, it really comes down to what Mookie Betts wants to do compared to how much the Red Sox are willing to give him to keep him on this team alongside JD Martinez.
I mean, the Red Sox have the best outfield in baseball. And with Andrew Benintendi and Jackie Bradley Jr. in the mix, as well as JD Martinez and Mookie Betts, those are 4 of the best outfielders in the game today. And it is so tough. We're seeing this now with the Red Sox, and we'll eventually start seeing it with the Yankees, maybe even this year when they have to answer the question about Didi Gregorius coming back to New York, or Dellin Betances, Aroldis Chapman's in there. But when you have, and well, I'm sure we'll start seeing it with the Astros as well as the Dodgers, but when you build up this team and you create a team that's, well, quote unquote, the dynasty of this decade, it is so tough to keep the core there. And especially when you have guys like JD Martinez that wants to be paid close to $30 million, or guys like Mookie Betts that wants to be paid $30 million, or Andrew Benintendi that has a great season that wants more money now. And it's so tough to continue paying the guys that you need to keep there as well as win ball games. And this is kind of what happened to the Red Sox this past season. You know, the paychecks to Chris Sale and David Price and JD Martinez and Mookie Betts and Andrew Benintendi and Jackie Bradley Jr. and Xander Bogaerts, and you can just go on and on and on. No one in the bullpen, but still, you go on and on about just you can't continue paying these guys $30+ million and try to win ball games that way. You have to kind of revamp while you're in the middle of the dynasty.
And on top of that, it's hard to deny these players the money that they're requesting after they have such huge seasons as they have been. You know, JD Martinez, like you said, that huge stat line, he's been our power guy, 79 homers in 2 years. You're obviously going to want to keep him around. You have Mookie Betts, who just won his 4th Gold Glove, and has been one of the most consistent hitters in baseball. Just put him MVP season last season. And this year, he put Xander Bogaerts in the mix. He's been batting above 300 consistently for the last 2 or 3 years. Devers just put out a breakout season this year. There's a whole bunch of guys that are definitely deserving of the money, and it's hard to deny them of that, and at the same time, keep them all on the same team and keep that roster and keep the whole team going when everyone wants the money that they rightfully deserve.
And you make a great point because, again, we can sit here and talk about money that's being paid to these players, but in the argument for JD Martinez, he deserves it 100%, and he's producing, and that's what the teams need to win championships. But then we could dive in. The numbers aren't right in front of me at the moment, but we can look in about the David Price of 2019 and also the Chris Sale of 2019, and also the quote-unquote second half Chris Sale. Is it worth the money? And we can sit here and debate this all day, and we're never going to solve the world's problems because I'm pretty sure Jane Bloom is not going to be listening to what we say. But again, it's what makes sense. And is it making sense to keep David Price around? Should the Red Sox trade David Price? I think they should. I think they should try to get another almost Nathan Eovaldi-esque type pitcher in that rotation and try to bulk up that bullpen. You need to start utilizing these guys that aren't really for the long run. David Price is a guy that, in my opinion, is not a good piece for a rotation for the long run anymore.
I'd have to agree with that, just to the extent that David Price has been inconsistent to an extent over the past couple of years. He's shown, obviously, great bright spots. He's a former Cy Young winner. There's no denying the talent that's there, but last season he had a 4.29 ERA. He was shaky at best. He has never really been that great of a postseason pitcher, although last year he came in big. It's hard to justify a guy like David Price getting paid. He's the third or fourth highest paid pitcher in the MLB?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Hard to justify a guy like that.
And he's 34, too.
34, making $30 million for a mediocre at best ERA. Sure, he's getting up there in age, but it's hard to keep justifying a guy that is so inconsistent with his craft, although he has talent, like I said. He won his Cy Young almost 8 years ago, back in 2012, and has not really put up numbers even close to those numbers since that year. So, like I said, I think trading him would be a viable option, to say the least. Try and get a guy that's maybe not as strong of a pitcher, but definitely more consistent and will give you consistent innings. And even like you said, the bullpen, try and get their middle guys bulked up a little bit more and get more consistency in the bullpen, just guys that can really eat up innings and keep the Red Sox in the game.
So David Price has 3 more seasons left on his contract. So next season, then 2 more to follow. Then he's a free agent in 2023. He is being paid $32 million a year. And again, he struggled most of last season. He didn't really pitch even a lot. And then on Chris Sale's side, again, Chris Sale is the ace of the Red Sox rotation. And it's even a question right now what the health of Chris Sale is going to be for the 2020 season. So I don't think any other team would want to even touching Chris Sale right now. It's just because it's a questionable move. And the last time he pitched was August 13th. So that's a month and a half. And he had a few more injured list stints earlier in the year as well. So he did pitch. He did have some good, starts, but again, he finished the season with a 4.40 ERA, and that's kind of what went wrong with the Red Sox season. The pitching just was not there, and that clutch hitting that was there in 2018 wasn't there in 2019. And I'm sure we'll get into this a little later in the show when we talk about MVPs and Cy Youngs and also Manager of the Year award. But Alex Cora, I felt bad for the guy because it seemed like no matter what he did, just didn't work out for the Red Sox rather than in 2018 when every single thing he did turned to gold.
Yeah, and to sort of elaborate on that, the offense from last year wasn't really that bad compared to the year prior. We had guys like Rafael Devers, guys like Xander Bogaerts, Mookie Betts, who all still put up really solid offensive numbers. It came down to our pitching being inconsistent. You had guys like Sale, like Price, Porcello, guys like that in our rotation who can either have a Cy Young season or a season like last where they put up a 4.4 ERA, super shaky, inconsistent, not the ace pitcher that we want. So there's not really much to blame Alex Cora for, although he can take partial blame for some of our woes in the bullpen, perhaps. But the pitching staff, more or less, is the same that we had in that championship run. It just comes down to Porcello, comes down to Price, comes down to Sale, where they can either have seasons where they're sub-3, racking up strikeouts every game, lights out every single start that they're going up in, or they can go in, they can kind of struggle a little bit, they can get rocked early, and they can just, every start, sort of give up a lot more runs than they need to or that the Red Sox need them to.
And we'll be continuing this conversation later on in the show, but coming up next, top 5 news headlines of the day. Why is a black cat in the news? Next, you're on Power 88. Welcome back to Power 88. Chaz Toba and Alex Feuz bringing you up until the 8 o'clock hour on this perfect Tuesday morning. Chaz, top 5 news headlines of the day. A black cat in the news even after Halloween. If you watch Monday Night Football on Monday night, obviously because Monday Night Football, last night, black cat took the field during the Giants and Cowboys game. And they said, again, Halloween may be over, but a black cat made sure that it made its presence known on Monday night in the middle of a football game. A black cat darted onto the field as stunned fans and commentators looked on. And the cat wandered the field before sprinting through the Giants' end zone and then eventually disappearing under a seat section.
A lot of fans, even some Giants fans, blamed that cat to an extent, of course. Superstitious. For the Giants' loss, they'd been leading up to that point, and sort of after that, it had not gone well for the Giants. They were up 9-3. They ended up just scoring Cowboys 34, ended up losing 37-18. So, take what you want at that. Some people are more superstitious than others. A couple days after Halloween, my only question is how did that black cat get in the stadium and then find its way through all the tunnels and whatnot and run onto the field without anyone catching it?
You know, I think security at MetLife Stadium needs a big meeting today because how dare they let a black cat get through?
Yeah, and Sports Illustrated studio host, New York Giants reporter Madeline Burke said that according to MetLife Stadium, the black cat is actually one of the resident stray cats there, which also brings up the question, why do they have resident stray cats in a stadium with so many people? Not that cats are the worst thing, but with so many people, I feel like that could get a little bit dangerous to an extent.
Yes.
But according to Burke, the stadium plans to capture the cat and take it to the vet for an examination, which is always a good thing to hear, that they're not just getting rid of the cat. It is a stray. Although I do have a feeling that if put up for adoption, there are a lot of football fans that would probably adopt it pretty quickly.
Especially now that that cat is famous. And definitely, you know, my favorite things in life, and I get impressed or entertained by the little things. Ever watch like a baseball game and the squirrel is running around the field? That's what I live for. And now a black cat on a football game is what I live for. I mean, it's honestly one of the best things that people can see. It's just a free show within a show.
And honestly, that black cat has been, not to knock the Giants too much, but he got to the end zone, which is a lot more than some more Giants players can say for themselves. So,
and a big loss for the Giants for sure, and that kind of just rolls into headline number 4. The Giants lost to the Cowboys and really looked lost after the Black Cat appearance.
Yeah, they really had no answers for the Cowboys later in the game. Like I said, they started with the lead, but it kind of started to snowball. The Cowboys' offense started going, and it rolled them into a 5th straight loss. They had a lot of red zone failures. Dak Prescott early in the game got intercepted in the goal line. It was going very well for the Giants. They ended up just settling for a field goal. They got an interception in the red zone, in the opposing red zone, so within 20 yards of a touchdown, and they couldn't convert it. It looked promising. They were in there, like I said, they were in the red zone, but they ended up just settling for a field goal, and they ended up reaching the red zone, 5 times this game, and only ended with 18 points, which sort of brings up the question, they can't really punch the ball in the red zone and convert these points, and I think that's a huge factor to why the Giants aren't doing so well this season.
5th straight loss last night for the Giants. Are you surprised that the Giants have really just flopped this season?
Personally, I'm not, because anyone looking at the Giants season going into it didn't really hold that much hope. They drafted Daniel Jones 6th overall, a very controversial pick for the Giants. Many expected them to draft Dwayne Haskins, who ended up going to the Redskins later on in the draft.
Imagine being Daniel Jones, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on that kid. A lot of pressure on that kid to prove everyone wrong. And his first start, even preseason, he had the highest QBR of any quarterback. And a lot of people started to buy into him, Most people didn't believe in him. He's just a kid out of Duke. Not many big names from football come out of Duke. So he came in to the season, big expectations. They took a chance on the kid from Duke. And he came in and started doing well. I personally never really believed in the hype around Daniel Jones. Preseason never really mattered much to me. Came in his first season, did very well for his first start, but since then has sort of struggled. Though he doesn't have very many weapons on offense, Eli Manning has made good with what he's had over the past few seasons, and it almost begs the question of whether or not you want to start thinking about Eli Manning again after the struggles that Daniel Jones has had. It's something to think about for the Giants, and Giants fans, I think, have started to think about it as well, because Eli Manning has always been that consistent veteran presence on their team. So, at this point in the season, 5 straight losses, a record well below 500, you sort of want to start to think whether or not you want to put him back in the game, or trust the rookie in Daniel Jones, let him ride out the season, see how he does.
Headline number 3, it was one that I just found this morning, Chaz. And to go back on the Halloween conversation, this news anchor, meteorologist, and the news anchor, I guess a meteorologist pranced onto the news set dressed as a unicorn on Halloween. Did you see this?
I did see this, actually. It was at the Canada's Global News Calgary, and the meteorologist named Jordan Witzel, he dressed up as a unicorn, like you said, pranced on to do the weather. All the news anchors lost it to see a fully grown man in a tight white jumpsuit with wings and pink hair and the whole getup.
Very...
Yeah, a lot of Halloween spirit in
Yes.
Canada still, even after the couple days past Halloween.
I wonder if he said sorry. Anyways. Headline number 2, 20 weird hobbies people have listed on their resumes. Did you see this one?
I did, and there are some interesting hobbies, if you want to call them that, on this list.
Yeah, I mean...
One that really brings my attention was just, quote, I am the Batman.
Oh, I did not see that one. Oh my gosh. I'm the Batman. You gotta be kidding me.
Which is not a hobby, nor is it true, I'd have to assume.
Well, you never know. I mean,
No, I suppose not, but I haven't really heard about any mass vigilante running around the city stopping crime wearing a bat suit.
We got a unicorn, though.
Yeah, we do have a unicorn. I don't think he's fighting crime, though. Just telling the weather report.
Well, he's saving lives.
Well, sure. Think about it in a roundabout sort of way.
Yeah, why not? It says when applying for a job, professionalism is key. Most people wouldn't show up for an interview just kind of not prepared. And when it comes to building resumes, however, potential employees can sometimes feel free to take more chances or express themselves more honestly. And this list is from real resumes collected by the UK recruiting firm. And the agency released a top 20 list, and we'll read through them. Drinking, painting my toenails, samurai sword collecting, snake skin collecting. Oh my gosh. Work.
For one of the hobbies, they just put work.
They just
which,
put work.
As an employer, I mean, you can't get mad at.
No.
His hobby is working. That's something you want to see in an employee.
Yeah, that's
a
good work ethic. Ferret racing.
I don't even know what that would entail.
Handcuff collecting.
Are there different kinds of handcuffs that you can collect?
I guess so. Frog dissections.
I did that in ninth grade biology.
Sure. I am
resume.
the Batman. Yes, it's a real thing. My interests include cooking dogs. Wait, what? My interests include cooking dogs.
You read that right.
Oh, wait a second. Is there supposed to be a comma in between this?
The website doesn't have a comma, so you kind of have to take it literally as my interests include cooking dogs and interesting people. Whether or not you want to say that as cooking, comma, dogs, comma, and interesting people, or he just likes cooking dogs. Which, I don't know how that would help in the workplace, but he felt confident enough to put it on a resume.
I don't know what to say. That after I read it out loud. Oh my gosh. Well, in to this defense, number 11 is laser tag, but number 12 has commas. Work, putting in overtime, not drinking, smoking, or doing anything else that would increase the company's healthcare costs.
That's about as transparent as it gets.
That's funny.
And honestly, that's not really that weird of a hobby.
No.
Though it's not a hobby per se.
And that's basically taking care of yourself.
That's very good job of taking care of yourself. That's self-care. That is showing the employer that you're a clean guy.
Time travel. That's their hobby.
What's he doing getting a 9-to-5 job if he can time travel?
I don't know. Being awesome. Well, that's an opinion.
Yeah, definitely not a hobby there.
Because you could not be awesome, and you can say that. Tying knots. That's just not it.
Funny.
I try. Collecting pebbles. Yeah, collecting pebbles. A pet rock, maybe. Observing geometric shapes.
And just below that, space travel.
Space travel.
So,
I mean,
maybe an ex-astronaut?
Maybe.
Or maybe just someone that's a little crazy up in the head.
Or just loves planets.
Perhaps that.
Taking surveys. Taking surveys.
Just taking surveys. He's good at taking surveys. He likes taking surveys. Whatever it is.
Yes.
There's a survey. This guy will take it.
And then lastly, honestly, I like doing nothing.
And that is a hobby that I can relate to.
Yeah, well, this person, the top 20 list of weird hobbies that people have actually put on their resumes.
I can't believe some of those are real.
I am Batman. And then headline number 1, National Day Holiday. It is National Hot Sauce Day. Do you like hot sauce?
I do like hot sauce. More specifically, I like hot oil on my pizza.
Interesting.
Sort of like like the taste of peppers without the actual pepper on it.
Okay.
I like hot sauce as well. I like a lot of spicy stuff. But National Hot Sauce Day. How can we celebrate National Hot Sauce Day, Alex?
Well, some people can't live without their hot sauce made from chili peppers and other ingredients. Spicy sauce lovers will put it on everything from eggs to sandwiches to steak. National Hot Sauce Day used to be on January 22nd, and now they changed it, and it is now a staple to November 5th.
Very interesting. Do you have any friends that put hot sauce on eggs? Or do you yourself put hot sauce on eggs?
No, I don't really put hot sauce on anything. I'm not a big hot sauce fan. But I have some friends that will put hot sauce on a lot of things. One of my coworkers actually puts hot sauce on her pizza. And that's a little interesting, I think. Hot sauce on pizza. But I think that's, I don't know, like hot sauce on eggs. I think hot sauce just ruins the food because it loses its taste. Like you just taste hot sauce.
Hot sauce on eggs definitely overpowers eggs just because any eggs in any form really isn't really that strong of a taste. And hot sauce, like you said, is sort of very strong, concentrated taste. So it does overpower it a bit. But hot sauce on something like a sandwich with a lot of different flavors, I'll enjoy. Hot sauce on, like you said, pizza. I can imagine that to be good because I like hot oil on my pizza.
Sure.
I feel like to an extent, hot sauce is sort of like at the level of ranch, where anyone that is really enthusiastic, let's say, about ranch will put it on just about everything. I've seen it on French fries, I've seen it on pizza, I've seen it on chicken sandwiches, on everything, really. And I feel like hot sauce, if you're really passionate about hot sauce, you kind of just put it on everything. You think it makes everything better.
Well, that concludes the top 5 news headlines of the day. Coming up in 2 minutes, Chaz and I will be breaking down MVPs of this past baseball season, as well as Cy Young and Manager of the Year. Next, here on Power 88.
Kids.
Welcome back to Power 88. Alex Feuz and Chet. So we're bringing you up until the 8 o'clock hour this morning. MLB announced yesterday about the most valuable player, and then also the Cy Young, and then also the Manager of the Year finalists, the top 3 finalists for each of those 3 categories for baseball 2019 season. Chaz and I will be talking about and hopefully breaking down and choosing who we think are the MVP, Cy Young, and also Manager of the Year. And then we'll be breaking down the Rookie of the Year tomorrow on the show. So Chaz, top 3 American League finalists for the most valuable player: Alex Bregman, Marcus Semien, and also Mike Trout. 3 great players.
And I think a lot of Yankees fans are going to be very, very upset that DJ LeMahieu didn't make the top 3 voting for the MVP. Although I don't think he would have won even if he did make it, I do see the case of having him in the discussion. Regardless, American League finalists came out, like you said, Bregman, Semien, Trout. All 3 putting up very, very good seasons. Bregman has made himself into a household sort of name for any baseball fan. Mike Trout, of course, has been the best player in baseball, undoubtedly, for the since he got drafted. And Marcus Semien is sort of the odd man out in this trio, just because he's not really a household name. A lot of casual baseball fans probably don't know his name. And he's on a pretty small market team like the Oakland A's, though they did make the wild card spot, and that is a lot in part to the offensive performance of Marcus Semien. He batted .285, and he had the fifth highest rated defensive WAR in the majors, which is not something to really laugh at. Although Mike Trout and Alex Bregman both were runner-up for Gold Glove in their respective positions. Marcus Semien did not make the top 3 of voting. So it sort of puts him, not out of the discussion, but for someone that I was sort of struggling to even get into the top 3, to go up against a guy like Mike Trout or Alex Bregman, it's hard to compare when they're both so well-rounded, both hitting for average and power, especially Mike Trout, who was really in the home run race with Bellinger and Yelich for the most home runs in the major leagues before his season-ending injury. And a lot of people are counting him out for that. A lot of people are saying that he doesn't deserve the MVP because he didn't play the full season, which I personally really disagree with, because even missing the last 10, 15 games, whatever he did, they didn't really matter for the Angels, who were already out of playoff contention. They weren't really vying for any spot. It was the end of the season. I assume he probably could have made a playoff run. Had they made the playoffs, he could have came back. But in the games that he played, which was most of the season, I mean, it's a 162-game season, to miss the last 10, 15, personally, is not that much of a big of a deal for me. So for him to put up those numbers, he personally is my pick for the MVP. And Alex, who do you think in the American League is going to win the MVP this year?
So I'm actually going to say something that's going to surprise some people. I feel like Alex Bregman deserves the MVP award, and he did really lead all the categories if you look at it. Again, his WAR is 8.5, just behind Trout's 8.6, and then a baseball his OPS was third in the American League, and he had 80 extra base hits with a major league high of 119 walks. And the Astros won 107 games. And Alex Bregman, like Marcus Semien, had a huge part in those 107 wins, and also getting the Astros to Game 7 of the World Series. Yes, I know we don't truly count postseason baseball for this MVP award, but it should go into conversation about whether or not a team makes the playoffs or not, because one player on a team can truly make an impact. And we saw baseball is differently, where it's not so exaggerated. How if you add Bryce Harper or Manny Machado, it's not like you're going to win the World Series just by adding those names to your lineup. But still, I feel like Alex Bregman is deserving of the MVP award, and especially if you look at all the stats and everything, he was more ahead of Mike Trout in average. And I know in this day and age we don't really use average anymore. It doesn't. Everyone uses OPS. It has that more of a combination between everything: hitting, doubles, triples, home runs, RBIs. Everything is mixed into OPS, on base percentage as well. So everything between slugging and also OPS. I mean, OPS is on base percentage and slugging mixed together. So when you look at everything into OPS, it really shows a good, strong picture of how much a player means to a team.
And I think kind of the irony of that, to some sort of extent, is that Trout was actually the AL leader in OPS with a 1.083, which is, if you put it into baseball terms, incredible. On base plus slugging, it shows, like you said, a really well-rounded idea of how good the player is. It takes how often they get on base, which is obviously very critical in the game. And I think on base percentage is almost more important than average itself, just because I don't think it ever really matters how you get on base as long as you're there on base. Mm-hmm. Sure, hitting an average shows that outside of errors and fearless choice and whatever, getting you on base, average shows that you can hit. But on base percentage, that's really what you look for in a player. And Trout leading in OPS, meaning that he can also hit for power, which is pretty impressive. But moving over to the NL MVP race, of course, the three that everyone expected: Cody Bellinger, Anthony Rendon, Christian Yelich. Yelich sort of had a similar season to Trout in that it got ended early, unfortunately. He fractured his kneecap on September 10th. Sort of put him out of the MVP race to an extent, although he did have a absolutely phenomenal season. Him and Cody Bellinger going hit for hit with the home runs alongside Mike Trout for that top spot. Bellinger won the Gold Glove this year, which really boosts his case. Rendon, part of that World Series team, he's got a very strong case. What is your take on these three guys?
Three are incredible baseball players, and three are all deserved of this award. It's a tough one. I think Bellinger, again, just I think Bellinger, what kind of hurts him is the average, 305, going up against guys like Rendon, who batted 319, and then Yelich, who, yes, missed the last few weeks of the season, but it was a freak injury. And again, it's tough to just gauge off an injury. But again, these three guys all deserved. I think you have to give it to. I have to go with Anthony Rendon here. I think he's the most underrated player in the game today, and just with the phenomenal season that he had, 34 home runs, led the majors in runs batted in, RBIs, 126. So again, leading those major categories that really put the Nationals on the map and eventually ended up winning the World Series.
My personal pick for that, although I do think Rendon has been extremely strong this year, like you said, a key part in that Nationals offense that led them to the World Series. And to even his credit, the defense, runner-up at his respective position for Gold Glove. Bellinger, although the Dodgers didn't go as far, they got eliminated early, he won his Gold Glove in his position, which is just a slight step up from Rendon, on top of 47 homers and 34 doubles and an NL best 351 total bases. And he's really just kind of the complete player, offensive, defensive. And it's going to be a real close race, and I'm not going to be surprised if any of these three guys win it, in the AL or the NL for that matter.
And three incredible guys, but that will wrap up the show today. We'll take a deep dive into Cy Young tomorrow, and then also Manager of the Year on Wednesday. Or on Thursday, excuse me. So once again, thank you for listening to the show today. Have a great rest of your day, and be kind to one another. Be sure to throw some hot sauce on whatever you're eating for lunch. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.